We're back on the dirty workbench to take a look at the Geekvape Wenax. I've heard some other people call it Wenax. I'm calling it Wenax. I don't know. It's a goofy name either way you say it, so whatever. So I'll start with a little bit of personal experiences kind of stuff, not sort of full review, but yeah, let's do that. Little pod guy. So 600 milliamp hour, auto draw, so draw activated firing. Can use the button to fire. You can also disable the button. I think that's a good feature for carrying in your pocket so you don't accidentally fire the device and cook your coil. Two pods I got with it. One is a 0.8 ohm, which is that guy, this guy here. 0.8 ohm, which is a 12 to 16 watt, both 2 mil, and a 1.2 ohm, which is a 10 to 12 watt. So pretty standard kind of coil arrangement, both Canthol. I really like these pods. I think they've been great. Good flavour, sort of Caliburn level, or Freemax Max Pod I think is just a hair better, but really close. Like, yeah, no complaints at all. The draw is pretty much perfect as far as the airflow, perfect restrictiveness for me. It's similar, it's around that cigarette kind of restrictiveness, which is, not super tight, but not loose either. It's just right in that kind of nice, proper mouth to lung restrictiveness, and both felt about the same. So yeah, really, I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, really good. Now I don't really have any other coils left for my other pods, so I have been vaping the hell out of this guy, and good longevity out of the coils. So the last one I was using, the 1.2. Yeah, I just used this till, like, I just couldn't use it anymore, and that's got to be like 20 to 30 fills. So yeah, used the hell out of it. Yeah, lasted really well. Both of them lasted really well. Funnily enough, I didn't notice a huge difference between the two coils. Maybe I adjusted, I can't remember, I was playing around with it. Maybe I adjusted the power down a little bit on the 0.8. I don't know. But yeah, not a huge difference between them. Obviously, if you want a little bit more power, you like a stronger mouth-along hit, get the 0.8 coil, because he'll go up to 16 watt. And that leads me into, this guy's got variable power, which is pretty cool. You don't see that on many pods. Can't think of any others off the top of my head. I'm sure there are some. 3 levels of adjustment. So you've got basically low, medium, and high. Medium feels about normal for a normal kind of this size pod output. Low is definitely just that little bit cooler, and high, obviously, it's just a bit hotter. It basically, what I'm getting at is it feels appropriate. So you're on the high mode and you can notice it's just that bit warmer, but it's not stupid. The same as the low. So I think it feels like they've gotten the output ranges right for that adjustment. And I think 3 ranges is all you need. Like, you don't necessarily need any, because a lot of other pods don't have it at all, but I think 3 is perfect. Doesn't need to be infinitely adjustable. So that's a good feature. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You know what these little pod guys are like. USB-C charging. Yeah, the draw activated firing has been perfect for me. I know I saw a Grim Green video where he said he found it was cutting in and out on him during, like, mid puff. I didn't find that at all. Never had that once. I don't know. There might be a little bit of variance between them. Yeah, don't know. But it was fine for me. Just fired exactly like it. When you're using one of these auto draw devices and you never notice it actually cutting in and out, or like you don't even know when it started. You just draw on it and it just works, and then you stop and it stops. Yeah, it's just like that. It's fine, perfect. Now, the two things I'm not super in love with, the fill method. I mean, it's your standard plug, little plug fill method, which most of them have, because they're such simple little pods and there's not much space. Obviously, I see why most of them do it, but it's always that problem where it's a pretty small hole. So you put the tip of your juice bottle into fill, and if there's a bit of a drop hanging off the bottom of the sounds wrong, bit of a droplet hanging off the tip as you put it in, oh, that's really wrong. Okay. So what you end up with is sometimes you'll get a bit of liquid that's just sitting around. All right, get a grip. Let's grow up a little bit here. So what I find is you'll often get a few little bubbles coming out of juice while you're trying to fill it, and it just gets everywhere like it normally does. Like you gotta hold the little rubber bit open, and that little bit of juice will sort of come out as the air's trying to come out, and rubber fill, I don't know, man. It's never great, but I see why they do it. And sometimes you got to kind of fight it a little bit to get that actually pop back in. But you know, it's not too big a deal. It's just whatever. I really love the Caliburn style where you just pop the cap off and it's got the fill port and the air release port. That's great. Doesn't airlock either. These, I wish they'd just make a little bit more space in between the coil and the plastic, just so the juice can kind of flow down better, or just a sort of a better way of doing that, because you'll go to fill it up and it'll fill this top half up really quick, and then this bubble will just sit down the bottom, and you got to move it around until the bubble sort of flows up through and the liquid goes down and then clears out the top half, and you can kind of fill a bit more, and then try to not overfill it, because then when you put the plug in there's going to be more liquid come out, and you know how it just kind of sucks having sticky e-liquid on your fingers. It's not fun. Just sounds sus, doesn't it? Now they are single-use coils, single-use pods, so you throw the pod away when it's done, and there's a little picture on that saying don't put in the bin. Well, I guess where else do you put it? Recycling? Yeah, doubt it. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of 50-50 on whether the disposable pods are okay or whether it's better to have the coils. I think probably better to have the coils, just so you're not throwing out plastic every time. You know, it's not a huge amount. It's only a couple of grams of plastic, but if you don't need to throw it away, then it's better not to. It does cut down on the potential for leaks though, so you're not having to rely on any sort of O-rings fitting in the coil to stop it leaking. They're all sort of press fit together. Anyway, get them out of the way. One other thing I forgot to mention was the charging. So it's USB-C. It does seem to charge quite quickly, and it gets pretty hot. So it's a little bit concerning. In the book, they say it's got a high temp cutoff at 80 degrees C. I notice when you plug it in, you can vape on it while it's charging, but only for a short time, for like maybe 3-4 minutes before it won't fire. And I think that's because it's hitting its 80 degrees C cutoff. So that's pretty quick. Like that board's heating up. So if it is doing that because of that cutoff, then it's hitting 80 C on the board, on the little charging board in there. Yeah, quick. It's a little bit of a worry. Now we're a bit screwed as far as a disassembly, because there's nothing to disassemble. There's no halves. It's just one piece alloy. It's a lovely looking device. I really like that metal finish. So I don't see any other way to get in here and to destroy it. So let's do that. I mean, I got this for free. By the way, I don't get paid by any of these companies to do reviews or testing. That would be cool, but I do get them for free. So I'm not, you know, kind of sucks to have to destroy something, but it's not a big deal. So anyway, how are we going to destroy this thing? We're going to have to we want to get to the inside. I want to get to the battery and the board to do some testing and see what's going on in there. Geekvape has been a little bit shifty with their battery ratings in the past. I know the Aegis Mini was rated at 2200 milliamp hour and it was an 1800 milliamp hour. So it was just straight up, yeah, lying about the capacity, which is not cool. I hate that, because you buy something that's a certain rating and that's often why you're buying it, and then it's not that thing at all. And that's kind of not cool. So what do we reckon is going to be the best way to destroy this thing? Are we going to go Dremel, or are we going to go hacksaw? I'm a little bit concerned about cutting through the cell. I really don't want to cut through the lithium cell. We can already see down into the battery. Looks like the battery there. Definitely broken through the alloy, so it's not super thick. I reckon the whole assembly, how they make this, it'll have, there's obviously this piece of plastic at the top here. There'll be the board assembly, probably under that button, and then the cell will be in the bottom part. Might have some sort of plastic sort of caging around it, or cover. I reckon they'll have that whole inner assembly pre-made, and probably like glue, like super glue, or we call it super glue in Australia. So I reckon how they do it is they just get that whole inner assembly, whack some glue on it, and then just slide the whole lot in, and that's it, done. Sorry for the noise, neighbours. There's a cranky old bastard next door too. I think that'll just about do it. So it'll just about get us there. It's pretty well just broken through. Yeah, there we go. Piece of cake. No worries. Didn't even blow up. Okay. Ooh, metal flakes everywhere. Yeah, I'll have to clean that off my bench. So there's inside the Wenax. Yeah, little plastic frame around the outside. Tiny little board down the bottom, screwed into that plastic frame. And how's it held in? Yeah, I think it's just glued. Yeah. Yep, just what I thought. So they've just whacked you can see the whole patch there. Just squirted some glue down inside the case, and then they'll have this whole assembly already pre-made, and they'll just, you know, punch the whole lot down into the case, and it's done. Like, there's no other retention into the case. It doesn't need to be. It's not going to come out. Like that nice smooth alloy in the plastic there with the super glue will never come out, I reckon. So there's the inside, just as we thought. Little plastic frame holding the cell board at the top. So this little guy here, I better clean the... Okay. Before I get conductive metal dust into everything with a battery that's still got charge in it, let's clean that up. Obviously got the plastic frame here, that's the holder for the board and the cell. Now that little guy is just to protect the board from touching. So it's a pretty minimal amount of protection, really. Just a little stick-on guy. The anodized metal is generally not conductive through the oxide layer, but it's super thin, that oxide layer. Like, it doesn't take much to scratch it off. I mean, it's not going to be moving around because it's glued in there. It's not going to have any sort of frictional forces there, but still, just put my multimeter on, go to ohms, I'll put it on buzzer so you can hear if this has got any continuity. No, so that's reads open circuit. Now if I go into the fresh alloy, there we have continuity, but through the anodized layer, nothing. See how much it would take to get down to conduction. Yeah, a fair bit. Yeah, okay. So that's probably not an issue. It does still seem like not a huge amount of protection in between the board and metal, but yeah, I think it's okay. I did notice when this assembly just came out of the case, there's some rubber seals here. Well, I was thinking it looks like a two-piece seal. It's not a two-piece seal, it's sort of cut right through the thing, you idiot. So there's an O-ring in the top there. O-ring in the top that goes right around. And that's your only protection from liquid ingress, but again, because this is all glued in and not moving, should be fine. Should be fine. I didn't have a whole lot of liquid. A little bit of liquid is sitting in there, but the board's completely dry. So we're seeing we've got two screws here holding the bottom board assembly, and that'll be a ribbon cable going up to the top. And let's just peel off this little protective foam piece here. Okay, so that's interesting. It's a very thin little ribbon cable, and so that's both. Yeah, I mean, it could be updatable, this guy, because it looks like it's, you know, it hasn't just got two wires. It's got 5 wires actually. Sorry, does it? Yeah, 5. It's actually got 5 wires, so it could have power and data, but I mean, it could be charging at like 1 amp. That's a fair bit of current for a tiny little ribbon cable. Yep. Okay. And just soldered in. Interesting. Quite interesting. Okay, let's take the screws out. The internal cell is rated at 2.22 watt hour, which does convert to 600 milliamp hour. So, looking good so far. Now, in like a fair few of the last internal cell tests I've done, the cell itself has been the correct rating, but when it's actually tested, they're a bit under. So it seems to be that way for the Chinese cells, because these are most likely Chinese-made lithium polymer or prismatic cells. It's basically just a rolled up pouch cell with no hard case and lithium polymer. Now, yeah, so a lot of them have seen that, like, you know, they rate them at 2000 milliamp hour, for example, and they'll test it about like 1900, 1920, like kind of just under, which normally for the 18650s we use, you want to see them be above that, because then it accounts for, you know, you're kind of giving a minimum rating. So if you say it's a 2000 milliamp hour battery, you're going to get that at least. It might be a little bit more, but very unlikely for it to be under. Normally is what you want. We'll see. We'll put it on the CBA, and we'll do a discharge on it. We'll see what capacity. Now, the one thing I did think is I'm probably lowering the capacity just a little bit by obviously using it first, but it shouldn't be that significant. I mean, unless it's charging too fast or doing something wrong. Yeah, so I'd have to account for just a little bit of capacity loss, because I have used it. You know, I've used it for the life of 2 coils. So yeah, not nothing, not a huge amount, but not nothing either. Probably shouldn't be using metal here. You can't puncture these cells, because if you go through the cell, you'll short the layers out, and then yeah, that'll get nasty quickly. And I haven't got my fire extinguisher up here. It's down the garage, which is fairly far away. So these 2 guys here are our wire connections through to the pins that touch the pod, and the battery connections there. So all like pretty straightforward, sort of what we're expecting. We'll see this a bit better once I get the board out. Pretty well. Sneak it out now. Is there anything else on that board? No, just there's a couple little passives there. So the charge controller is not on that board. There's the whole board. There's not much to it, is there? But you know, I wasn't expecting much. It's all looking pretty good. It's looking pretty clean. This guy right here is the sensor for the auto draw, for the, you know, draw activated firing, and you can see it's in a little silicon guy here. So this sensor is just sitting inside its little silicon piece, and all that's doing is giving it a pathway. Basically, it's measuring vacuum, so it's like a pressure sensor is pretty much what it is. It's noticing pressure through this channel, down through the silicon piece and onto the sensor. That's a lot like how the Freemax MaxPod did it. Similar sort of thing, that little silicon block that it sits in, and it just has a little pathway. LED is that guy there, and that's just up against, where is it? No, it just shines straight through. Yeah. Tiny little bit of sort of semi-opaque plastic there that the LED will shine through. So there's really not much in here at all. There's got to be a super basic little microcontroller, one of these guys, and we've got to have MOSFETs to fire it. Because it's got different power output levels, we've got the low, medium and high. I'd say it's going to be PWM, just like the last device we looked at, the Swag. So when you want lower power, you just chop up the battery voltage, and it gives you a lower average. Because there's no inductors or anything on here, it's just like the most simple circuit you can possibly do, pretty much. and I wonder if it even changes through. It may not even regulate to a certain level as the battery discharges, because as the battery's discharging, you know, you're starting off at 4.2, ending up at 3.3 or something like that. To get the same amount of power at the coil, you'd actually need bigger pulses as the battery gets lower, because the voltage is coming down. It may not even do that. It might just have, yeah, it may just be like the high power is just straight battery voltage, medium power is like 75% duty cycle, and low is like 60, might be something like that. So I didn't really notice it when I was using it, apart from actually maybe when it got right down low, it started to feel a bit weaker. Yeah, so yeah, that's going to happen. There's no weight, there's no boost control. Yeah, there's no boost converter obviously or anything like that in there. It's not a full switch mode. It's just pulse width modulation, I would say. I'm 99% sure. And so there's got to be a way to charge the battery. So I'm wondering which is the MOSFET, which is the little. So that guy there is a teeny tiny little microcontroller doing almost nothing. Yeah, very minimalistic board. Okay, well, there's not a whole lot in it, but you know, we weren't expecting a whole lot anyway. Liquid ingress protection seems decent. So there is a bit of a pathway for ingress around the fire button. There's no membrane or seal or anything in there. So, I mean, it's a pretty small gap, but yeah, possible. It's possible for liquid to go in this gap and work its way directly onto the board. It would have a straight shot onto the board from there. Yeah, so pay attention. Don't get any liquid down. Well, you never want to try and get any liquid on your mod, but especially around the switch, because it's, you know, when you go to wipe it, often you end up pushing more liquid into the little gap around the switch in the case. So just be mindful not to get liquid around that area. On the top, it's not bad because we've got the O-ring, and in the bottom here, it's not really a. Ooh, look at that. Okay, that's a hard time. So in the bottom of the mod, it's not a real big deal because there's no real circuitry in there. It's not a whole lot. Just your USB port. Obviously, still try not to get any liquid around the device, but it's not super. What's the word I'm looking for? Not super critical around the bottom as far as liquid getting onto a board that could, you know, malfunction and, you know, cause auto firing or stuff like that. Yeah, pretty straightforward. So there are the internals of the Geekvape Wenax. Simple little board, ribbon down to the USB socket, and 2.22 watt hour 600 milliamp hour cell LiPo. And we'll do some testing and we'll see if it's any good. I'll probably post this video before I do all the testing, just because don't want to keep Geekvape waiting too long, because they, you know, as I said, I don't get paid, but they send me free stuff, so I don't want to take like months to review it, because then the next product's out and it's like a waste of time. Because yeah, okay, so we'll leave it at that. And thanks for watching. Watch out for the test. It'll either be on Reddit or I might do another video. Vaping MacGyver on Reddit. Alright, cool. Thanks for watching. Cheers.